Helena Nash sat cross-legged on her bedroom floor at 2 in the morning, guitar resting against her knee, recording the most honest 3 minutes and 47 seconds of her life on her phone, completely unaware that this moment would unravel everything she thought she knew about staying invisible. The song poured out raw and unfiltered, her voice breaking in all the right places as she sang about the man who had occupied her thoughts for 6 months. The melody was simple, the lyrics embarrassingly specific. She sang about his laugh that sounded like thunder rolling through a quiet room, about the way he drank his coffee black and never checked his phone during conversations, about how he made her feel seen in a way that terrified her. She sang about wanting something she convinced herself she could never have, about the ache of standing close enough to touch someone while knowing the distance between their worlds was too vast to cross. When she finished, her hands trembled as she stopped the recording. She should delete it. That would be the smart thing to do. Instead, she opened her social media account where she had posted covers and original songs for the past 3 years to a modest following of about 8,000 people. Most of them were supportive strangers who appreciated her voice, her vulnerability. She had built this small corner of the internet as a place where she could be honest without consequence. Helena uploaded the song with shaking fingers, titled it Thunder, and wrote a simple caption. "Sometimes you write what you cannot say." Then she put her phone face down on her nightstand and tried to sleep, her heart still racing from the confession she had just released into the world. She worked as a music teacher at a community center in downtown Portland, spending her days showing children how to hold a guitar properly and helping teenagers find their voice. It paid enough to cover her small apartment and groceries, with a little left over for the occasional new set of strings. She had never wanted fame or fortune. Music was her language, the way she made sense of emotions too big for regular words. The man she had written the song about was Carter Yates, and he was as far removed from her simple life as the moon was from the ocean, even though they pulled at each other with the same inevitable force. She had met him 6 months ago when he had shown up at the community center as part of some charitable initiative. He ran Yates Global Holdings, a massive conglomerate that dealt in real estate, sustainable energy, and about a dozen other ventures Helena did not fully understand. Forbes had called him one of the youngest billionaires in the country at 32. She was 26 and considered it a good month when she had enough left over to buy the nice coffee. But when Carter had walked into her music class that first day, surrounded by assistants and photographers, something unexpected had happened. The cameras captured him handing oversized checks to the community center director and talking to kids about following their dreams. But when everyone else had left, Carter had lingered. He had picked up one of the old guitars and played a few chords, rusty but sincere. Helena had been packing up her things and she had laughed, surprised. "You play?" she had asked. "Used to. My mom insisted on lessons when I was a kid." He had set the guitar down carefully, running his hand along its worn surface. "I forgot how much I missed it." They had talked for 20 minutes, standing in that room that still smelled like wood polish and teenage ambition. He had asked about her work with a genuine interest that felt different from the polite small talk she usually endured at charity events. She had made him laugh twice, which felt like winning something valuable. After that, he kept coming back. Not with cameras or entourages, just him, usually on Thursday evenings when her last class ended. He would claim he was in the neighborhood, that he wanted to check on how the center was using the funding. But they both knew he could have sent anyone to do that. Instead, he showed up himself, and they would talk. Sometimes for an hour, sometimes until the janitor politely reminded them he needed to lock up. Helena had tried not to fall for him. She had given herself stern lectures about reality and appropriate expectations. Carter Yates lived in a world of private jets and business deals that shaped entire industries. She lived in a world of bus passes and students who paid for lessons in crumpled dollar bills. But her heart had not cared about any of that. It had fallen anyway, quietly and completely, until she was writing songs about him at 2 in the morning. She woke up the next morning to 73 notifications on her phone. Her song had been shared and liked more than anything she had ever posted. People were commenting about how the lyrics had made them cry, how the melody was hauntingly beautiful, how they wished someone would feel that way about them. Helena read through the comments with a mixture of pride and panic. The song was too specific. What if he heard it? What if he somehow knew? But the chances of Carter Yates scrolling through independent music posts on social media were essentially zero. His world did not intersect with hers beyond those Thursday evening conversations. She was safe. She was wrong. Carter heard the song for the first time 3 days later, while getting his morning coffee at the upscale cafe near his office building. He had barely slept, his mind churning through the details of an acquisition that was proving more complicated than anticipated. The barista was a college student with blue hair and excellent taste in music, according to the playlist that usually filled the space. That morning, a voice came through the speakers that made Carter stop mid-step. The song was raw and beautiful, the kind of honest that made his chest ache. The woman sang about someone with a laugh like thunder, about black coffee and undivided attention, about wanting what seemed impossible. The melody was simple but devastating in its sincerity. Carter stood frozen by the pickup counter until his assistant, Marcus, touched his elbow. "Your coffee," Marcus said, holding out the cup. Carter took it without looking away from the speaker. "What is this song?" The barista glanced up. "Oh, that is Thunder by Helena Nash. It has been blowing up online the past few days. She is incredible, right? Helena." Carter knew that name. Helena with the patient smile and quick laugh, who taught music to kids at the community center, who had slowly and without his permission become the person he thought about first thing in the morning and last thing at night. Helena had written a song. "Can you send me the link?" Carter asked, pulling out his phone. The barista looked delighted. "Of course. Honestly, everyone is obsessed with it. The lyrics are so specific, people are dying to know who she wrote it about." Carter listened to the song 4 more times in his car before heading into the office. He dissected every lyric, every detail. The coffee could be coincidence. Lots of people drank black coffee. But the part about never checking his phone during conversations, about making her feel seen, about the distance between their worlds, those details felt personal. They felt like every Thursday evening he had spent at the community center, finding excuses to be near her. Was it possible? Had Helena written a song about him? The thought sent electricity down his spine. He had been careful around her, professional. He had told himself that showing up every week was about supporting the community center, about staying connected to work that mattered beyond profit margins. But the truth was simpler and more complicated. He showed up because being near Helena made him feel like himself in a way nothing else did. In boardrooms and meetings, he was Carter Yates, the billionaire CEO, the shark who closed impossible deals and never showed weakness. With Helena, he was just Carter, the guy who used to play guitar and still remembered what it felt like to create something for the simple joy of it. He had wanted to ask her out 100 times, but every time he got close, reality crashed back in. What could he offer her besides complications? His life was public scrutiny and 18-hour workdays and expectations that crushed everything genuine. Helena deserved someone who could be present, who understood her world. She deserved better than the chaos that followed him everywhere. But if she had written this song about him, If she felt even a fraction of what those lyrics suggested, then maybe he had been wrong about what she wanted. Over the next week, Thunder seemed to follow Carter everywhere. It played in the restaurant where he had lunch with investors. His housekeeper hummed it while organizing his kitchen. A video of someone covering the song on piano went viral, and Marcus mentioned it during their morning briefing. The song was everywhere, soaking into the city like rain, and nobody knew that every word might be about him. Carter caught himself analyzing the lyrics obsessively. The part about thunder rolling through a quiet room, Helena had said that about his laugh once, months ago, after he had cracked up at something ridiculous. She said about her least favorite chord progression. He remembered the moment vividly because her face had gone slightly pink, like she had revealed something she meant to keep private. The more he listened, the more convinced he became. This was about him. It had to be, but he needed to be sure. He could not walk into this blind and risk embarrassing her or himself. Carter was methodical by nature, successful because he gathered information before making moves. So he did what he always did when facing uncertainty. He investigated. He started showing up at the community center on days other than Thursday, talking to staff members, asking casual questions about Helena. He learned that she had worked there for 4 years, that the kids adored her, that she never missed a day even when she was sick. He learned that she lived alone, that she wrote her own music, that she had turned down opportunities to move to Nashville because she loved Portland and the community she had built. Everything he learned made him want her more, but he still did not have confirmation about the song. He needed to hear it from her, needed to see her face when he asked. So Carter planned. He would go to the community center on Thursday like always, and he would find a way to bring up the song naturally. He would watch her reaction, and he would know. Thursday arrived with unseasonable rain. Carter sat through morning meetings thinking about the evening ahead. He snapped at a junior executive who had shown up unprepared, then immediately apologized, which shocked everyone in the room. Marcus gave him a knowing look. "You okay, boss?" "Fine," Carter said, too quickly. "You have been distracted all week. Just a lot on my mind." Marcus leaned back in his chair. They had worked together for 5 years, long enough that Marcus had earned the right to push back. "Does this have anything to do with a certain music teacher, and a song that I have heard approximately 600 times in every coffee shop in this city?" Carter shot him a warning look. "I do not know what you are talking about." "Right. And you have been visiting that community center every Thursday for 6 months purely out of philanthropic interest." Marcus grinned. "For what it is worth, I think she is great. You should tell her." "Tell her what exactly?" "That you have been stupid about her since the day you met. That you light up every time someone mentions her name. That you are currently acting like a teenager with a crush instead of a man who runs a multi-billion-dollar company." Marcus stood up, gathering his papers. "Just tell her the truth, Carter. You are good at a lot of things, but pretending you do not care about her is not one of them." Carter wanted to argue, but Marcus was already walking out of the conference room. And besides, he was right. Carter had never been good at hiding his feelings about Helena. He had just been good at convincing himself that those feelings did not matter, that acting on them would be selfish or irresponsible. But the song had changed something. If Helena felt the way those lyrics suggested, then his restraint was not noble. It was cowardly. And Carter Yates had not built an empire by being afraid. He arrived at the community center at 6:30, just as Helena's last guitar class was ending. Through the window, he could see her helping a small girl position her fingers on the frets, patient and encouraging. The sight made something warm bloom in his chest. This was who she was, who she had always been. Generous with her time, passionate about her work, completely unaware of how extraordinary she was. The students filed out and Helena started packing up the guitars. Carter knocked on the door frame. She looked up and her face did something complicated. Surprise, pleasure, and something that looked almost like panic flickered across her features before she smiled. "Carter, hi, I was not expecting you today." He stepped into the room. "I know I probably should have called." "Do you have a minute?" "Of course." She set down the guitar she was holding, wiping her palms on her jeans like she was nervous. "Is everything okay with the funding? Do you need reports or something?" "No, nothing like that. Everything here is great." He moved closer, trying to read her expression. "Actually, I wanted to ask you about something I heard." Her eyes widened almost imperceptibly. "Oh, there is this song that has been playing everywhere lately, Thunder by Helena Nash." He watched her carefully. "That is you, right?" The color drained from her face, then rushed back in a deep blush. Yes, that is me." "It is beautiful," Carter said honestly. "Really beautiful. I have probably listened to it 100 times this week." Helena looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. "Thank you. That is really nice of you to say. The lyrics are very specific." He took another step closer. "Black coffee, never checking your phone during conversations, a laugh like thunder." She had gone completely still, a deer caught in headlights. "They are just, songs are." "Helena." He said her name gently, and she finally met his eyes. "Did you write that song about me?" The question hung in the air between them. Carter could hear his own heartbeat, could see the rapid rise and fall of her breathing. For a moment he thought she might deny it, might laugh it off as a wild coincidence. Instead, she lifted her chin, and her voice came out steady despite the fear in her eyes. "Yes, that single word changed everything. Why did not you tell me?" Carter asked, his voice rough with emotions he had kept locked down for 6 months. "Tell you what? That I have feelings for you." Helena laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Carter, you are a billionaire. You run companies and make decisions that affect thousands of people. I teach kids how to play guitar. We live in completely different worlds. I do not care about that. You should." She turned away from him, busying herself with straightening music stands that did not need straightening. "I should not have posted that song. It was stupid and impulsive, and I never thought you would actually hear it. I definitely never thought you would connect it to yourself. But I did hear it, and I am glad." Carter moved around to face her, ducking his head to catch her eyes. "Helena, look at me, please." She did, reluctantly, and he saw everything in her face. The longing, the fear, the desperate hope that maybe this could be something real. "I have been coming here every Thursday for 6 months, Carter said. "And it has nothing to do with the community center and everything to do with you. I show up because being near you is the best part of my week. Because you make me laugh and you call me out when I am being pretentious about something. And you do not care that I am rich or powerful or any of the things everyone else cares about. Carter, I am not finished." He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and took her hand. Her fingers were calloused from guitar strings, small and strong in his. "I have wanted to tell you how I feel for months, but I kept talking myself out of it because I thought my life would be too much for you. Too public, too demanding. I thought I would be selfish to ask you to deal with all of that." "You were protecting me," Helena said softly. "I was protecting myself," Carter corrected. "Because if I told you how I felt and you said no, I would not be able to keep showing up here. And I did not want to lose you." Helena's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "You are not going to lose me. Then let me take you to dinner, a real date, not just talking in an empty classroom. Let me do this right." She smiled, tentative and beautiful. "Okay. Okay. Yes, Carter. I will go to dinner with you." Her smile widened. "But nowhere fancy. I do not own anything appropriate for the kind of restaurants you probably eat at." He laughed, the sound echoing through the room thunder in a quiet space. I know a pizza place that makes the best margarita in the city. How does that sound? Perfect. They went to dinner that Saturday, to the pizza place Carter had mentioned, which turned out to be a tiny spot in a neighborhood Helena did not usually visit. The owner greeted Carter by name, teasing him about not coming around enough anymore. They sat in a corner booth, and Helena learned that Carter liked extra basil on his pizza and could do a surprisingly good impression of his most pompous business rival. "You are different than I expected," Helena said, halfway through her second slice. "Different how? Funnier. More relaxed." She tilted her head, studying him. "When you do interviews or speeches, you are so serious and polished, but this version of you is, I do not know, more real, I guess." "This is who I am with people I trust," Carter said. "The rest is armor. You learn quickly in my position that everyone wants something from you. So you build walls, you control the narrative. But with you, I do not need to do that." "Why not?" "Because you did not know who I was the first time we met, and you still talk to me like I was just a person." "Because you have never asked me for anything. Because you wrote a song about me that was so honest it terrified you to post it." He reached across the table, lacing his fingers through hers. "You see me, Helena, the real me. That is rarer than you know." They talked until the restaurant closed, then walked through the neighborhood for another hour, still finding more to say. Carter told her about growing up with parents who had built their wealth from nothing, and impressed upon him the responsibility that came with that kind of success. Helena told him about her mom, who had passed away when Helena was 19, and how music had been the only thing that made sense in the aftermath of that loss. "She would have liked you," Helena said as they reached her apartment building. It was after midnight, the street quiet except for distant traffic. "Yeah, she always told me to find someone who made me feel brave, someone who made me want to be the biggest version of myself instead of the safest version." Helena looked up at him, backlit by the streetlight. "You make me feel brave, Carter." He kissed her then, soft and careful, like she was something precious that might break. Helena melted into him, rising on her toes to close the distance between them. The kiss deepened, and Carter felt 6 months of restraint dissolve into certainty. This was right. She was right. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Helena laughed. "Wow." "Yeah." Carter rested his forehead against hers. "Wow. Do you want to come up?" she asked, then quickly added, "Just to talk. I mean, unless you do not want to, that is fine too, I just thought." He stopped her rambling with another kiss. "I would love to come up." Helena's apartment was small and cluttered with the comfortable chaos of someone who actually lived in their space. Sheet music covered the coffee table, 3 guitars stood in various corners, books were stacked everywhere. Carter loved it immediately. It felt alive in a way his pristine downtown penthouse never did. They ended up on her couch, talking until the sky started to lighten with dawn. They talked about everything and nothing, learning each other in the way new lovers do, greedy for details. Carter learned that Helena hated mushrooms but loved every other vegetable, that she had wanted to be a marine biologist until she picked up a guitar at 12, that she sang in the shower and cried at commercials with dogs in them. Helena learned that Carter was terrified of failure, that he still called his mom every Sunday, that he had a younger sister who was a doctor and gave him endless grief about working too much. "She is going to love you," Carter said, playing with Helena's hair while she leaned against his chest. "You think? I know. She has been telling me for 2 years that I need to meet someone who is not impressed by the company or the money, someone real." He pressed a kiss to the top of her head. "You are the most real person I have ever met." They fell asleep there on the couch, tangled together, and woke up to Carter's phone buzzing aggressively with messages from Marcus asking where he was, and reminding him about a 9 o'clock meeting. Carter swore, carefully extracting himself from Helena without waking her, and typed out a response saying he would be there. But when he looked back at Helena, still sleeping with her hair a mess and her face soft with peace, he made a decision. He called Marcus. Cancel the morning. Move everything to this afternoon. Carter, we have the presentation for the Singapore investors at 9. We have been preparing for weeks. Then present without me. You know the material as well as I do. If they have questions, I will be available by phone. There was a long pause. Are you okay? I am more than okay, Carter said, looking at Helena. I just have somewhere more important to be. He hung up before Marcus could argue. Then he went into Helena's tiny kitchen and started making breakfast with whatever he could find. The result was scrambled eggs, slightly burnt toast, and coffee that was stronger than intended. But when Helena shuffled out 20 minutes later, rubbing sleep from her eyes, she looked at him like he had prepared a feast. You are still here, she said, sounding surprised. Where else would I be? I do not know, running your empire, making billion-dollar deals. She slid onto one of the 2 chairs at her small table, accepting the coffee he offered. Do not you have meetings and stuff? Move them. Carter sat across from her, feeling more content than he had in months. This is more important. Breakfast is more important than billion-dollar deals. You are more important than billion-dollar deals. Helena's eyes went soft. Carter Yates, you are going to ruin me for all other men. Good, he said, completely serious. That is the plan. They spent the day together, a stolen Sunday that felt separate from the rest of the world. Helena showed Carter her process for writing music, playing bits and pieces of songs she had never posted, trusting him with the unfinished and imperfect. Carter talked about the pressure of living up to his father's legacy, the weight of being responsible for thousands of employees and their families, the loneliness that came with success. I do not want you to think my life is easy, he said, sitting on her bedroom floor while she perched on the bed with her guitar. Because once this goes public I mean it is going to be intense. Photographers, gossip sites, people analyzing everything you do. I know. Helena had been thinking about this since he left Saturday night, turning it over in her mind. I am not going to pretend that does not scare me, but I also do not want to not do this because of fear. We can be careful, keep it private as long as possible, or we can just be honest. Helena set her guitar aside. Carter, you spent 6 months hiding how you felt because you thought it was the right thing to do. I spent 6 months doing the same, and we both just made ourselves miserable. I do not want to start this relationship by hiding. He climbed onto the bed, bracketing her body with his arms. You are braver than me. I am terrified, she admitted, but I am also sure about you about this, so we will figure it out. They did try to figure it out, taking things one day at a time. Carter started showing up at Helena's apartment after work instead of going home to his empty penthouse. They cooked together, terrible meals that they ate while laughing at their combined lack of culinary skills. They watched movies, argued good-naturedly about music, and talked until late into the night. Helena met Carter's sister, Maya, 3 weeks into their relationship. Maya showed up unannounced at Carter's office, demanding to meet the woman who had made her brother cancel a major meeting. She took one look at Helena, sitting in Carter's office and helping him workshop a speech he had to give at a charity gala, and broke into a huge smile. Oh, thank God, you are normal, Maya said. Helena laughed. I am not sure if that is a compliment or an insult. Definitely a compliment. The last woman Carter dated was a nightmare who only cared about being photographed at the right parties. Maya flopped into a chair. You are the music teacher, right? The one who wrote the song, Carter groaned. Maya. What? It is a great song. I have it on all my playlists. Maya looked at Helena with genuine warmth. Seriously, though, it is nice to meet you. Carter has not shut up about you for weeks. Maya, Carter said, warning in his voice. What? I am being nice. She stood up, grabbing her purse. I have to get back to the hospital, but we should have dinner soon. I want to hear all the embarrassing stories about my brother that I am sure he has not told you yet. After she left, Helena turned to Carter with a smile. I like her. She is a menace, Carter said, but his tone was affectionate. But I am glad you got along. She means everything to me. Her approval matters. Did I pass the test? With flying colors. He pulled Helena into his lap, kissing her thoroughly. Though I knew you would. But as their relationship deepened, the outside world started to notice. A photo of them leaving Helena's apartment together surfaced on a gossip blog. The headline read, Billionaire Carter Yates steps out with mystery woman. Within hours, internet sleuths had identified Helena, dug up her social media, and connected her to Thunder. Helena's phone exploded with messages from people she had not heard from in years, from journalists asking for comments, from strangers with opinions about her relationship. Her modest following of 8,000 ballooned to over 100,000 in 2 days. People dissected her previous posts, analyzed her lyrics, speculated about every aspect of her life. It was overwhelming and invasive and exactly what Carter had warned her about. Helena tried to take it in stride, tried to remember what she had said about not hiding. But when a photographer followed her to work and took pictures of her with her students, she called Carter in tears. I cannot do this to them, she said, pacing her apartment while he listened on the other end of the line. These kids did not sign up to be photographed because their teacher is dating someone famous. Their parents are going to freak out. I will take care of it, Carter said, his voice hard in a way Helena had never heard before. Do not worry. I will handle this. He did. Within 24 hours, a statement went out from Carter's PR team making it clear that Helena's students and workplace were off limits. Legal action would be taken against any outlet that published photos of minors without consent. The message was received. The photographers stopped showing up at the community center, but the attention did not go away entirely. Thunder climbed the independent music charts, bolstered by the publicity. Labels reached out to Helena with offers. Producers wanted to work with her. The song that she had written in her bedroom at 2 in the morning was suddenly everywhere, bigger than she had ever imagined. You could do something with this, Carter said one evening, reading through the stack of offers that had come in. Some of these are from major labels, Helena. This could change your life. I do not want my life to change, Helena said, curled up next to him on the couch. I like teaching. I like writing songs for myself. I do not want to be famous. But you are talented. You deserve to have that recognized. It is being recognized. People are listening to my music. That is all I ever wanted. She took the papers from his hands, setting them aside. Carter, I know you are used to seizing opportunities and building empires, but I am happy with what I have. A job I love, music that matters to me, and you. That is enough. He studied her face, looking for doubt or regret, but all he saw was certainty. You are sure, completely. She kissed him. Besides, if I signed with a label, I would have to go on tour and do press and all those things that would take me away from you, and I am not interested in that. I would wait for you, Carter said. If that is what you wanted, I would support you. I know you would. But it is not what I want. Helena straddled his lap, wrapping her arms around his neck. What I want is this. You and me building something real. Everything else is just noise. Carter fell more in love with her in that moment, if such a thing was possible. Helena could have leveraged their relationship into fame and opportunity. Instead, she chose the quiet life she had always lived, the work that fulfilled her, the love they were creating together. She chose him, not for what he could give her, but for who he was. "Move in with me," he said suddenly. Helena blinked. "What? Move in with me?" "Not here," he gestured at his penthouse, which Helena had jokingly called a museum the first time she visited. "We can find a place together, something that feels like a home, something with room for your guitars and my books and whatever else we need." "Carter, we have been dating for 2 months." "I know, and I have never been more sure of anything." He cupped her face in his hands. "I love you, Helena. I am completely, ridiculously in love with you, and I do not want to waste time pretending I am not. Move in with me." Helena's eyes filled with tears. "I love you too, so much it scares me sometimes." "Is that a yes?" "That is a yes." They found a house in a quiet neighborhood, a restored craftsman with hardwood floors and a sunroom that Helena immediately claimed for her music. It had a yard where they could plant a garden, a kitchen big enough for their clumsy cooking experiments, and bedrooms for the future they were starting to imagine together. Moving in together was chaotic and perfect. They argued about where to put furniture, discovered incompatible habits, and learned how to share space with another person. Carter was obsessively neat. Helena left creative clutter everywhere. He woke up at 5 in the morning. She was a night owl who did her best work after midnight. But they figured it out, compromising and adjusting, building a life that fit them both. Helena kept teaching at the community center. Carter still worked relentless hours, but he made sure to be home for dinner most nights, a boundary he had never set before. They hosted Sunday dinners where Maya came over and told embarrassing stories about Carter's teenage years. They adopted a dog, a mutt from the shelter that Helena named Maestro, and who followed her around the house while she played guitar. 6 months after Helena moved in, Carter took her back to the community center on a Thursday evening. It had become their tradition, this weekly visit to the place where everything started. But this time, when they walked into the music room, it was filled with people. Helena's students, the community center staff, Maya, even Marcus from Carter's office. They all held candles and someone had strung lights across the ceiling. "What is this?" Helena asked, confused. Carter took her hand, leading her to the center of the room. "This is where I fell in love with you. Where I first heard you laugh, where we spent 6 months dancing around what we both wanted. This place matters. You matter. And I wanted everyone who has been part of our story to be here for this." He dropped to one knee, and Helena's free hand flew to her mouth. "Helena Nash, you wrote a song about me that changed my entire life. You saw through every wall I had built and decided I was worth loving anyway. You make me laugh, you challenge me. You remind me every single day what actually matters in this world." He pulled out a ring, simple and beautiful. "I do not want to spend another day without knowing you are going to be by my side forever. Will you marry me?" Helena was crying, nodding before she could even get the words out. "Yes, yes, of course yes." The room erupted in cheers as Carter slid the ring onto her finger and stood up to kiss her. Her students were jumping up and down. Maya was taking approximately 1,000 photos, and Maestro was barking excitedly even though he had no idea what was happening. "I cannot believe you did this," Helena said against Carter's lips. "I wanted it to be perfect. You deserve perfect." "I do not need perfect," Helena said, looking around at all the people who had shown up for them. "I just need you." They got married 4 months later in a small ceremony in their backyard. Helena wore a simple dress and flowers in her hair. Carter cried when he saw her walking toward him, not caring that everyone could see. Maya was the officiant, having gotten ordained online specifically for this purpose. They wrote their own vows, promising to choose each other every day, to build a life full of music and laughter and the kind of love that made everything else worthwhile. At the reception, Helena surprised Carter by performing a new song, this one called Home. It was about finding where you belong, about taking chances on the scary things, about thunder and lightning and the beautiful storms that change everything. She sang it looking directly at him, and when she finished, there was not a dry eye in the audience. "You wrote another song about me," Carter said when she came back to his side. "I will probably write 100 more," Helena admitted. "You are my favorite subject. I am the luckiest man alive." They danced until late into the night, surrounded by everyone they loved. And when they finally left, heading to the airport for a honeymoon in Ireland that Carter had planned down to the smallest detail, Helena felt the rightness of it all settle into her bones. This was her life now. This beautiful, unexpected, sometimes overwhelming life with the man who had heard her song and realized she was singing about him. A year after they got married, Helena found out she was pregnant. She told Carter by recording a new song, this one about tiny hands and late-night lullabies and becoming parents together. She posted it to her social media with the caption, "New music, new chapter, new adventure." Carter heard it while in a meeting and immediately left, driving home at speeds that were definitely illegal. He found Helena in the sunroom, guitar in her lap, smiling at him like she had the best secret in the world. "We are having a baby," he asked, breathless. "We are having a baby," Helena confirmed. He crossed the room in 3 strides, lifting her up and spinning her around. "I love you. God, I love you so much. I love you too." Their daughter, Claire, was born on a Tuesday morning in April. She had Helena's dark hair and Carter's eyes, and she was perfect in every way that mattered. Carter held her for the first time and understood with sudden clarity what his parents had meant about responsibility and legacy. This tiny person was his whole world now, her and Helena, his family. Helena took to motherhood with the same passion she brought to everything else. She sang to Claire constantly, making up silly songs about diaper changes and bath time. Carter learned how to function on 3 hours of sleep and became an expert at swaddling. They muddled through the newborn phase together, exhausted and amazed and more in love than ever. When Claire was 6 months old, Helena started teaching music classes specifically for parents and babies at the community center. It became wildly popular, filling up within hours of opening registration. Carter would sometimes sneak away from work to watch them, seeing Helena with their daughter strapped to her chest, while she led a room full of parents in nursery rhymes and simple melodies. "You are staring," Marcus said one day, catching Carter watching through the window. "Can you blame me? Look at them." Marcus smiled. "Never thought I would see the day when Carter Yates was domestic." "Neither did I," Carter admitted. "But it turns out this is what I was working toward the whole time. I just did not know it." On their 2nd anniversary, Helena and Carter went back to the community center on a Thursday evening, bringing Claire with them. The music room was the same as it had always been, worn guitars and music stands and the faint smell of rosin. Helena sat down with her guitar while Claire played with blocks on the floor and Carter watched from the doorway. "What are you thinking about?" Helena asked, seeing the expression on his face. "I am thinking about the first time I came here, how I was just going through the motions, showing up because my PR team said it would be good for my image. I had no idea that walking into this room would change everything." "I almost did not talk to you," Helena admitted. "You were this intimidating billionaire and I was just the music teacher. I figured you would shake some hands, take some photos, and leave. But I stayed." "You stayed," Helena agreed. "And you kept coming back. Best decision I ever made." Carter sat down next to her on the floor, pulling Claire into his lap. "You know, people still ask me about that acquisition I was working on when we first got together. The one that was keeping me up at night, They want to know how I turned it around, made it successful. What do you tell them? I tell them I stopped prioritizing the wrong things, that I started making decisions based on what actually mattered instead of what looked good on paper. He kissed the top of Claire's head. That deal fell through, by the way. I walked away from it 2 months after we started dating. And it turned out to be the best business decision I ever made because it freed up resources for better opportunities. Helena set her guitar aside. No regrets, not a single one. Well, maybe one. What? I regret not telling you how I felt sooner. We could have had an extra 6 months together. Helena laughed. We have the rest of our lives together. I think we will be okay. They stayed in that music room for another hour, playing with Claire and talking about everything and nothing, just like they had on all those Thursday evenings before. The community center closed around them, the building settling into nighttime quiet. But Helena and Carter were in no hurry to leave. This place was where their story started, where a music teacher and a billionaire found each other against all odds. As they finally gathered their things to go home, Helena paused by the door. Do you ever think about that song? The one that started all this, Thunder? Carter shifted Claire to his other hip. All the time. Why? I was just thinking about how terrified I was to post it, how sure I was that it was a mistake, that I had revealed too much. Helena looked back at the empty room. But if I had not posted it, if I had let fear win, we might not be here right now. We would have found our way eventually, Carter said. Some things are inevitable. You think so, I know so. You and me, Helena, we are inevitable. The song just sped things up. They drove home through the quiet city streets, Claire asleep in her car seat, the radio playing softly. When they pulled into their driveway, Carter reached over and took Helena's hand. Thank you, he said. For what? For writing that song. For being brave enough to post it. For seeing something in me worth loving. For building this life with me. He brought her hand to his lips. For everything. Helena smiled, the kind of smile that still made Carter's heart skip. You know I am going to keep writing songs about you, right? Embarrassingly specific ones that everyone will know are about you. I am counting on it. They went inside, put Claire to bed, and curled up together on the couch in the sunroom where Helena did her best work. Through the window, they could see stars starting to emerge in the darkening sky. The house was quiet except for the soft sound of their breathing and the occasional creak of the old craftsman settling around them. I want to write something new, Helena said suddenly. A song about all of this. About how the scary thing turned out to be the best thing. About choosing love even when it does not make logical sense. What are you going to call it? Helena thought for a moment, then smiled. Inevitable. She grabbed her guitar and started playing, melody taking shape under her fingers. Carter listened, watching her face as she worked out lyrics and chord progressions, lost in the creative process that he found endlessly fascinating. This was his life now. Thursday evenings and original songs, a daughter sleeping upstairs and a wife who made everything make sense. The song came together quickly, like it had been waiting inside Helena all along. She sang about thunder in quiet rooms, about taking chances on impossible things, about how the best stories start with someone being brave. When she finished, Carter had tears in his eyes. That is beautiful, he said. Should I post it? Absolutely. Let the whole world hear it. Helena pulled out her phone and recorded the song in one take, her voice clear and true. She uploaded it with a simple caption. Sometimes the scariest choice is the right one. This is inevitable, a song about finding your person. They watched as likes and comments started rolling in immediately, people responding to the honesty and hope in her lyrics. But this time, Helena was not terrified. She was not worried about who might hear it or what they might think. She had already found what she was looking for. She had already chosen love, and love had chosen her right back. Years later, when people asked how they met, Helena and Carter would tell the story of the song. About how she posted her feelings into the void at 2 in the morning, never imagining that the person she was singing about would hear it everywhere, before finally realizing it was about him. About how fear almost kept them apart, but bravery brought them together. They would tell this story to Claire, and eventually to her younger brother Marcus, named after the assistant who had pushed Carter to stop being stupid and tell Helena how he felt. They would tell it at family dinners and in interviews, a modern love story about songs and second chances, and the courage it takes to be honest about what you want. But the best version of the story was the one they lived every day. In the quiet moments and the chaotic ones, in the ordinary Thursdays and the extraordinary milestones, they chose each other over and over again. Helena kept writing songs, some of which she posted, and some she kept private, little love letters meant only for Carter's ears. Carter kept showing up, kept making space in his demanding life for what truly mattered. Their house filled with music and laughter, with scraped knees and bedtime stories, with the beautiful mess of a life built on love. And on Thursday evenings, whenever they could manage it, they would go back to the community center where it all started. Helena would teach her classes, Carter would help kids tune their guitars, and they would remember the two people they used to be, the music teacher and the billionaire who seemed to exist in different worlds. But they had learned that worlds could overlap, that different did not mean incompatible. They had learned that the best things in life rarely made logical sense, that sometimes you had to take the leap and trust that someone would be there to catch you. Helena had taken that leap when she posted her song, exposing her heart to potential ridicule and rejection. Carter had taken that leap when he showed up at the community center and asked if she wrote it about him. And both of those leaps had led them here, to this life overflowing with love and purpose, and the kind of happiness that comes from being brave enough to want what you want without apology. On their 10th anniversary, Carter surprised Helena with a recording studio in their basement. She cried when he showed her, overwhelmed by the thoughtfulness of it. He had consulted with music producers to get the equipment right, had soundproofed the walls, had created a space where she could make music whenever inspiration struck. "You did not have to do this," Helena said, running her hands over the mixing board. "I wanted to. Your music matters, Helena. Even if you only ever share it with me and the kids, it matters. You deserve a proper space to create." She hugged him tight. "I love you. I love you too. Now go make something beautiful." Helena did. She spent the next year working on an album, not for a label or for fame, but simply because she had stories to tell. Songs about motherhood and partnership, about growing older together, about the life they had built from that first brave moment. When it was finished, she pressed 100 physical copies and gave them to friends and family, her gift to the people who had been part of their journey. Carter played it constantly, in his car and his office, the songs becoming the soundtrack to his life. His colleagues teased him about it, but he did not care. Let them tease. He had what they were all searching for, a love that had started with a song and had grown into something vast and unshakable. Claire grew up listening to her mother's music, learning guitar as soon as her hands were big enough to hold one. Marcus showed less interest in instruments but loved to sing, his voice clear and true like Helena's. They grew up knowing the story of how their parents met, thinking it was the most romantic thing in the world. "Will you write a song about us?" Claire asked Helena one day, 11 years old and curious about everything. "I already have," Helena said. "Several actually want to hear them." She played Claire's song, which she had written the day her daughter was born, and Marcus laughs. which captured her son's joy in musical form. She played Growing, about watching her children become their own people, and Home, which she had performed at her wedding but had taken on new meaning as their family expanded. Claire listened with tears streaming down her face. "I cannot believe you wrote all of these about us." "You inspire me," Helena said simply. "You and your brother and your dad, you are my greatest inspiration." That evening, when Carter came home from work, Claire ambushed him with a request. "Dad, we should do something special for Mom, to thank her for all the songs." "What did you have in mind?" "A concert, just for her. We could all learn instruments and play together." Carter loved the idea immediately. They spent the next 3 months secretly practicing, Carter on guitar, Claire on piano, Marcus on drums that they hid in the garage. They were terrible at first, discordant and clumsy. But they kept at it, determined to do something meaningful for the woman who had given them so much. On Helena's 38th birthday, they surprised her with a concert in their backyard. They had set up a small stage, strung lights through the trees, invited all their friends and family. When Helena came outside and saw what they had done, she burst into tears. "We wanted to give you back some of what you have given us," Carter said, handing her to a seat in the front row. "So we learned to play." They performed 3 songs, covers of Helena's originals, and they were imperfect and wonderful. Notes were missed, timing was off, but the love behind every chord was unmistakable. Helena cried through the entire performance, overwhelmed by the beauty of her family making music for her. When they finished, she got up on stage and hugged each of them. "That was the most incredible gift anyone has ever given me. We have been practicing for months," Claire said proudly. "Your dad almost quit about 6 times," Marcus added, and everyone laughed. "Hey, I stuck with it," Carter protested, "though my fingers may never recover." Helena kissed him. "You were perfect." They spent the rest of the evening celebrating, music floating through their yard as neighbors joined in with guitars and voices. It was the kind of spontaneous joy that had defined their life together, the willingness to create moments that mattered. Later, when everyone had gone home and the kids were asleep, Helena and Carter sat on their back porch looking up at the stars. "Do you remember when we were first dating and you were worried about the press and the attention?" Helena asked. "I remember being terrified I would ruin your life. You gave me a life I never could have imagined." Helena leaned her head on his shoulder. "A life full of music and love and moments like tonight. You did not ruin anything, Carter. You made everything better." "We made everything better," Carter corrected. "This life we have, we built it together." They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the night sounds around them. Somewhere in the distance, someone was playing guitar. The melody was familiar, Thunder, Helena's song that had started it all. Even after all these years, people still discovered it, still connected with the raw honesty of wanting something that seemed impossible. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if you had not posted that song?" Carter asked. "All the time," Helena admitted. "I think about how close I came to letting fear win, how I almost deleted the recording instead of sharing it. What made you share it?" "I think part of me knew that keeping it private was not going to make the feelings go away. I was going to keep showing up to the community center every Thursday, keep seeing you, keep falling more in love with you. At least if I posted the song, I was being honest with myself about what I wanted. Even if I never thought I could have it." Carter turned to face her. "You know what the crazy thing is? I was planning to tell you how I felt that week. I had this whole speech prepared about how I knew we came from different worlds, but I could not stop thinking about you and would you maybe want to get dinner sometime." Helena's eyes widened. "Seriously, seriously. I had Marcus help me rehearse it. He said I sounded like a robot, so I kept rewriting it." Carter laughed at the memory. Then I heard your song and everything changed. Suddenly, I was not just hoping you might feel something for me. I knew you did. It gave me the courage to be direct instead of dancing around it. So we both were about to make our move. Inevitable, like you said. Carter stood up, offering her his hand. Dance with me. There is no music, so sing something. Helena took his hand, letting him pull her up and into his arms. She started humming Inevitable, the song she had written about them all those years ago. Carter swayed with her under the stars, in the backyard of the home they had made together, and felt the rightness of it all settle into his bones. This was what success looked like. Not the billion-dollar deals or the magazine covers or the empire he had built. Those things were fine. They mattered in their own way. But this Helena in his arms, their children sleeping safely inside, a life full of love and music, this was the real victory. This was what he had been working toward without even knowing it. I would do it all again, Helena murmured against his chest. Every scary moment, every doubt, every time I almost gave up. I would do it all again to end up here with you. Good, Carter said, because I am not letting you go. Not in this lifetime or any other. They danced until the night air turned cold, until Helena was yawning and Carter's feet hurt. They went inside, checked on their sleeping children, and climbed into bed together. Helena curled into Carter's side, her head on his chest where she could hear his heartbeat steady and sure and completely hers. Thank you for hearing my song, she whispered, already half asleep. Carter kissed her forehead. Thank you for writing it. In the morning, they would wake up and return to their ordinary lives. Carter would go to work. Helena would teach her classes. The kids would go to school and soccer practice and all the activities that filled their days. But they would carry this with them, the knowledge that they had chosen each other and kept choosing each other, every single day. And sometimes, when Carter was sitting in traffic or walking between meetings, he would hear thunder playing somewhere, a coffee shop, a store, someone's car radio. The song had become a classic in its own right, covered by famous artists and featured in movies, a testament to the power of honest emotion. But only he knew the full story behind those lyrics. Only he knew that the woman singing about thunder and black coffee and feeling seen had been sitting on her bedroom floor at 2 a.m, terrified and brave and completely unaware that the man she was singing about would hear her song everywhere before, finally realizing she had written it about him. It was their story, their beginning, the brave moment that had made everything else possible. And every time Carter heard that song, he fell in love with Helena all over again, with her courage, her talent, her willingness to risk everything for a chance at something real. They lived there happily ever after, not in grand gestures or fairy tale perfection, but in the accumulation of ordinary moments made extraordinary by love. In Thursday evenings at the community center and Sunday dinners with family. In songs written in basement studios and concerts performed on backyard stages. In laughter and tears and the beautiful, complicated mess of building a life with another person. And through it all, Helena kept writing songs and Carter kept listening, their love story continuing to unfold one melody at a time. Proof that sometimes the scariest choice is the right one, and sometimes what seems impossible is just inevitable waiting to happen.